Time for another edition of The Winning Ticket. Eric is here with Gino Bucola, and we are getting ready to give out some of our best bets for NFL Week 8. Wow, really? We're already there. And we will discuss 4 of this week's biggest college football games. Eric, buddy, how are you doing, my friend? Nothing's going for your gambling the last couple of weeks. It's as I ask you a question and then answer it myself, feels like for a player like you, with the way things have kind of been trending with a little bit more dogs playing, that probably been an okay couple weeks.
Yeah, last weekend was really good for me. Monday, I only did the Juwan Jennings over, which was good. Hit UTEP, NBA starting, hit the Bucks live. Unfortunately, did not have Mike Evans over last night. So not the start I wanted, losing Mike Evans, but hopefully we can keep it going this weekend.
So remember, all of you that are out there hanging out and you're looking for a place to play, if you are in the state of Iowa, you can sign up for a DRF Sportsbook account. You'll see it scrolling across the bottom of our screen. We have a promo code FAST350. It'll give you all the way up to a $350 deposit match bonus. And then don't forget, the next couple of weeks, big weeks in the world of horse racing, head on over to DRF Bets to make some of your wagers. So make sure to use that promo code FAST350. We'll let it scroll throughout the show as we talk. You must be in Iowa, coming to more states very, very soon. Okay, Eric, we have, 4 games on our college football slate to discuss. Let's start with the first one, Oregon and Utah. So a big game in the Pac-12. This one feels sort of like kind of like an elimination game, right? I think whoever loses this game is probably out of any sort of playoff or national championship hopes here. You have a Utah team that's coming in off another big win against USC. They just match up very well with them over the last couple of years, we've seen. And USC actually came back in a game where they were playing really poorly, took the lead, and then Utah drove and won on a game-winning field goal. And their offense looked very, like, the best they've looked by far. That's what makes me a little bit nervous because they haven't been this real offensive powerhouse. But their best 2 offensive games have come by far the last 2 after the bye, and they're leaning on their new quarterback. He can run the ball a little bit. He had 57 yards. They've also converted their safety, Vaikai. He had 14 touches and 217 yards last week. This dude's been a spark. He plays on both sides of the ball now. I'm a little worried, though, because it feels like Utah just had this big game they got up for, like an emotional game. You go on the road, and it was like a roller coaster game too, right? Because they're up big early, and then USC kind of comes back and takes the lead, and then you sort of feel like you might be out of it, and then Utah goes on a game-winning drive and hits a couple big plays late. It feels kind of like a bad spot for Utah, Eric, but then on the flip side, this is a really difficult place to play. Right? This is one of the best home field advantages that you have in all of college football. So I never really like playing a road favorite going into Utah. Man, this one kind of is a stay away for me because normally I would absolutely want to line up and play Utah in this spot, right? But I feel coming off of the big game last week, do they have another big punch right back in them? I'm going to stay away. How are you playing this thing?
I played Utah plus the points, plus the
Yeah,
6.5.
that's the only side I could take, I think. Maybe
really,
like an Oregon first half if I was going to do it, but I couldn't lay this much on the road. It just, like, give us your analysis now. Talk to us while you're on Utah.
Really hard for me to trust Oregon after how they lost the Washington game with the coaching decisions at the end of the half and the play calling at the end of the first half. You look at Whittingham. Whittingham as a dog is 59.3% ATS. As a dog in the Pac-12, he is 61% ATS. Oregon likes to run the ball. Utah is only allowing 3 yards per rush, 72 yards per game. I don't think Oregon's going to be able to run the ball. Thus, it makes Bo Nix being able to step up and make some throws. Bo Nix on the road historically has struggled throughout his career. This is nothing new. Also, I really think the big thing is Jackson, who's the key, one of their best DB for the Ducks. He may not be playing. If he doesn't play, that's going to open stuff up for Utah's passing game. You mentioned Vaikai, who's just what Hunter's supposed to be. I don't know. I like Utah here. It's a tough place to play, tough spot to go in. It is basically elimination game. I think this is the week Utah wins, and then next week is the week we look to fade them.
Yeah, what scares me about it is just in that sense, I think Oregon's the better team overall, like more talented team. Then, like we said, I'm kind of like going back and forth. And when I do that with myself, I just stay away, right? Like when I start telling myself both sides, I steer clear. But Eric has some really solid reasoning, and Utah's just a tough team at home. And maybe this is like an Oregon win by 3 game, right? And you're getting basically a touchdown here. I think why I'm having a hard time is because I think Oregon wins. But I don't know if they cover. That's sort of where I am right now. And I just don't know if there's enough margin for me to get involved. Eric, we head to the Georgia-Florida game. We are going to see a Georgia team that they haven't lost. They've been incredible, 24 straight wins, right? But the 4 SEC teams they've defeated so far are a combined 3-14 in conference. And now, so they beat South Carolina, Auburn, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. No Bowers, no tight end, but they are coming off a bye, so they do have some time to kind of figure things out, maybe get some new wrinkles without him there. You look at this Florida team, they're a little vulnerable defensively. They got shredded against Kentucky versus the run. Their offensive line has given up 19 sacks, 4th most in the conference. So what you're going to see is a lot of quick short stuff from Mertz. He's got, I think, the best completion percentage in the nation. And they use where I think Florida will be able to get some success in this game, Eric. And that's really all they need, right? If you're a 2 touchdown plus underdog, all you need is a little bit of success in maybe one area here or there to keep this close enough. What they do is they use motion and play action at a really high rate because they want to do a lot of short stuff, a lot of bells and whistles. And that's actually something that Georgia struggles a little bit with. They don't defend that quite as well. So I think if Florida leans on that, a lot of their short passing, which will make kind of like neutralize that Georgia strong defensive front, right? If you can just gift them with the short passing stuff here and there and kind of turn that into a little bit of a run game, I think it's a good spot for Florida here. Do I think they're really talented? No, I really don't think. Mainly, this is me not thinking Georgia is quite the same Georgia team that we've seen these last few years. So I like Florida in here plus the 14.5.
Yeah, I played Florida here plus the 14.5. I also sprinkled just a hair, just a small little sprinkle.
A little smidge on the money line.
You're looking at Napier. Napier as a dog, just in his coaching career in general, is 76% ATS as a dog in the SEC that balloons up to 78%. We need to remember that this Georgia Bulldogs teams had issues stopping the run when they went against Auburn in a game they easily could have lost. Plus, you mentioned Martz has been playing better. Georgia is loaded, but I know they're coming off the bye, but Bowers is such a key to this offense that I really think missing him this first game back is a tough situation, especially against a team like Florida, which is going to limit your possessions because they're going to run the ball and control the clock. Then you factor in the new clock rules. Top 5 teams on the road this year laying.
When we're talking about this type of a game, Eric, not interrupt, when it's such a big spread, like it's like when you're playing a long shot in anything, you're only looking for a couple things that we feel like there could be advantages in just a few spots for Florida. And that's really all you need to feel like this number is just a little bit too high.
Yeah. Top 5 teams laying 14 points or more this season when not playing at home are 46% ATS. And you just kind of look, there's only been one game this year where Georgia's looked good, and that was when they played Kentucky. They came out with a purpose right from the get-go. I took Florida here. I did the 14.5. I sprinkled a little bit on the money line as well. I just think with the new clock rules, a running team and a team that struggles to stop the run, and they just lost their best offensive weapon, just makes sense for me to take Florida here.
Yep, we're both on the Florida side, taking the big dog plus the points. We go to Louisville, Duke. Louisville is a 4.5-point favorite in this one. They beat Notre Dame, then they have a bad loss to Pitt. Now they come off a bye. They're still dealing with some injury issues off the bye. The offensive lineman Brown had started every game for 2 seasons. I think he got hurt in their last game, and now he's done. Could be some issues with their running back that's bagged up, defensive back, all injury concerns there. Now, Duke comes off a tough loss to Florida State. Strong defense, even against these better teams. They're 5th in Division. They're 5th in all of college football, averaging 13.9 points per game, 24th nationally in total offense, allowing only 315 yards per game. They gave up a season high 38 against Florida State, some of that from a 99-yard kickoff return on special teams. So it wasn't necessarily all defense there. But why their defense has not been able to be quite as dominant is the offense has struggled the last couple of games, Eric, since they've had the quarterback issues and the injuries there. For Duke, I think they've only completed 12 passes total in their last 2 games combined. And like when you're playing against good opponents, if you can't complete passes, you're just not going to be able to win games. Like you can't do that against Florida State. You can't do that against like quality opponents. So do we know the health of Riley Leonard? Like even when we've seen it, like when we've seen him out there, he was not he was not 100%. And that's just what's tough.
Yeah, you kind of look at this. Obviously, not knowing what Leonard's status is a big thing. Before he went out against Florida State, Duke was winning the game. Louisville started off the season. They had a lot of turnover luck and a turnover breaks going their way and everything. That all kind of fell off on the Pitt game. A lot of stuff, pick sixes, some awful fumbles, high school level mistakes they were playing. Now they're coming off the bye, kind of a quote unquote get right spot to have more of the turnover progression. At the end of the day here, Duke's defense is legit. I really think Duke's defense is going to be able to limit what Louisville wants to do offensively, especially with Plummer as their quarterback, who's not the most mobile guy. Flip side, even if Leonard plays, I don't know if Duke's offense is going to be that explosive. It is a ground-based attack. So if I were going to bet anything, I'd bet the under. But to me, I'm passing on the game.
Okay, Eric. For me too. I just couldn't. I really want to take the Duke side in here. Like I like Duke, and I really like. They're well coached. They're feisty. Not many teams can operate without your starting quarterback. Honestly, like just not many. Like look at the top highest level programs couldn't probably operate without their starting quarterback, and that's just sort of where Duke has been recently without him being healthy 100%. Final of the college football games to discuss this weekend, Eric. We've got Tennessee. We've got Kentucky. Tennessee's on the road at Kentucky as a 4-point favorite. They're 8-2 against Kentucky versus Coach Stoops since he's been around. They were up 20-6 against Alabama last week. Then they got outscored 27-0. So I feel like you're coming off that Alabama game where you were up huge and then you just kind of get destroyed in the second half. It feels like this is a flat spot after that game was a big game, and another one where it may have sort of changed the perception of what you could do season long right now after that loss. So Milton, really good first half, really bad second half. You have a Kentucky team who allowed 600 yards 2 weeks ago against Georgia, and then 38 points last week. They were up 14. Then they got outscored 38-3 late. Both these teams, similar games last time we saw them, where they both just got outscored really bad in the second half of the game. And it looks like Kentucky's defense might be a little overrated based on their early schedule where they kind of beat up on some inferior opponents. They're, not great in EPA per pass and defensive success rate versus the pass. But what they're talking about coming off the bye is that they really worked on their pass protection, their communication. They're hoping to play faster and with more pace. Their wide receivers need to be better. They have a 15% drop rate. They have the most passing yards lost to drops in the conference. So those guys are supposed to be your key playmakers, and they're hurting you. They have to be a little bit better. And their quarterback, Leary, he hasn't looked completely healthy this year. I feel like this should be the healthiest he's been, Eric. I don't like what we've seen from Tennessee on the road a couple times this year. So I think if you're playing this game, I'm on the Kentucky side.
Yeah, I play Kentucky plus the points, put some on the money line as well. Letdown spot, as you mentioned, for Tennessee. Before the game against Alabama, they had a big emotional 20-13 win over A&M. We're up, blew it against Bama last week. Now you have to travel to Kentucky. And for Kentucky, this is going to be a quote-unquote big game. How can you really trust Milton laying points?
Completely agree.
Leary, from what I read online and from on X and talking to somebody, he's looked better in practice. He had that pec injury, which is really kind of limited ways of being able to do throwing the ball, but he's looked better in practice this week, progressing the right way. Hayden, who is one of the Vols' better defensive backs, he's not going to be out there. So if him not there, that's definitely a factor for the Wildcats to be able to to be able to throw the ball. They are a ground-based attack. Tennessee is very good against the run. So if they can't move the ball running, having Hayden not there is going to help Kentucky overall. And one more thing, Stoops is 65% against the number. I'll get Kentucky as a small home dog.
Okay, Eric. So those were our college plays. Remember, head to DRF Sportsbook, sign up for an account if you are in Iowa, get involved in some college football this weekend. We are going to talk some NFL, Eric. And for your first game, I wasn't quite sure what you had locked in on this one, because I think the number right now, are we still seeing 9.5 for the Pats?
Yep, I got him at 9.5.
Okay, so talk to us about the Patriots.
Armstead is hurt, and this team struggles without him. Isaiah Wynn also got hurt as well. So you have offensive line issues. And the big success to why the Dolphins have been the Dolphins this year is they're running the ball 4 times more per game. And I know people don't think that's a lot, but that does kind of keep the defense off balance, takes less time on Tua, less pressure on Tua. But if you're forcing Tua to drop back 30 to 35 times a game and pass that many times, that's not their blueprint to winning.
Blueprint 2, you had Tua, blueprint, and 2 all in there. That was a lot.
To winning. Also, look, I've lived with a bad back. You've had some back issues too.
Oh, yeah.
My eyes tell me Waddle's not playing with how he got up against the Eagles. Hale hasn't been practicing. He said he is good to go to play, but I really don't trust him to be there. So now you're not without Waddle, without 100% Hill, and you have offensive line issues. Now, look, Jones looked better, but I really think the big thing is the Dolphins are 25th DVOA defending the run. So I think the Patriots will be able to lean on the run game, shorten the game, and force the Dolphins to adjust, thus putting less pressure on Mac Jones. We saw how much Douglas, who came back from injury, met for him. He led them in targets. Jones was really targeting him. Fins do struggle defending the tight end. Divisional dogs getting 7.5 or more, 54% ATS. Plus, we have the whole Belichick second time playing angle. I'll take the Patriots here plus the 9.5.
Yeah, 100%. This was one of the games that I was looking right away. Just the way these teams match up. They didn't earlier on. Every above average defense that the Dolphins have faced, they've struggled a little bit with. We've just seen it, every single one of them. And now they're going to be more banged up on the offensive line. Eric, this was one of my plays that I had locked in also with you. And we now can move to my next play. I'm going to go, or my actually first play of the 3 that we each have. I'm going to talk about the Giants a little bit in here, Eric. I think the Giants have kind of quietly been playing pretty well lately. They're playing this Jets team now. The Jets are coming off a bye. But the Giants, since they got beat up by the Dolphins in week 5, in Buffalo, just come up short. Last week, they end up sacking Sam Howell 6 times, and he had 20 incomplete passes in that game. It was the 4th game this year they've allowed less than 300 yards. And so you're telling me they're going to line up against the Jets offense that hasn't been fantastic and Zach Wilson. And Eric, this is something that I talk about with you a lot. This is not necessarily a road game for the Jets because they're playing in the same stadium, but the Giants are going to have the home fans and the home setup here. And I just don't know in this particular game. Like, I don't know how often I would want to lay points at all with Zach Wilson at this point. I would be fine playing Zach Wilson in spots where they're getting points and they're an underdog. But again, I don't want to have Zach Wilson with margin right now. And this is more than just a Zach Wilson analysis, but the Giants defense has been improved. They're using Hyatt a little bit more. And Taylor, we already know that Taylor is going to be starting. And I actually like Taylor a little bit better right now this year so far from what I've seen from Jones. Taylor's getting Waller more involved. They got Hyatt involved a couple different times. Taylor doesn't turn the ball over all that much. Give me the Giants in here, Eric, plus the 3 for my first play. So you are next going to go to our guy Vrabel, I believe, right?
Yep, I got the Titans here plus the 3. Titans have an elite run defense, and that's what the Falcons are. Falcons are a ground-based attack. Their issues in the back 4, and I really don't think Ritter is going to be able to step up and make the throws. to take advantage of the issues that they have in the back four. Also, we really have no idea what's going on with Bijan Robinson. Like,
that was weird. That was weird.
With that being said, even if he does play, I think they're going to struggle running the ball. Falcons can be ran at. And I know, they may not play Henry. They may limit Henry. Spears, their backup, is a very capable backup, and he can be leaned on. And I think if the Titans do trade Henry to, Ravens, Bills, whoever, I think Spears is more of a capable backup to do that. He's a little bit more explosive, a little bit bigger factor in the passing game. I really don't care if it's Levis or Willis. This is just a pure bet on Vrabel. We need to remember he took Malik Willis, who's a rookie, who was making one read into Kansas City, and took that into overtime last year when Kansas City was humming on all accounts. Vrabel's a dog, 60.5% ATS, home dog, 61% ATS. Plus, when you rewatch that game, and look, I was on the Falcons first half, the Falcons game, they were lucky as H to win that game. Evans had like a bad drop. They had three red zone turnovers. They had
fumbles. You don't win that way at all. Like when that happens.
Little bit of a bluff score. Plus, Vrabel is known. That's the word. Knows Smith. So I mean,
because they know each familiar.
He's going to look to what he knows what to do. I'll take the home dog here. Give me the Titans here +3.
Yeah, this feels like a good spot for the Titans. As I move to a big dog here, the Cardinals +9.5. Baltimore just looked so impressive beating the Lions last week. Eric, we were going through it earlier in the week when we recorded on my show, on my podcast. It seems like every time a team has a big victory and they sort of stamp themselves as one of the best teams in the league, and then everybody talks about them all week, they've lost the next week. It's almost happened every single week. The Lions right off the bat in week 1, and then they lose week 2. We've seen teams, it's happened with San Francisco. They look good. They lost. When Dallas looked like they were the best team earlier in the year, and then boom, they lose to Arizona the next week. It happened again to your Lions with the Ravens last week. It happened with the Dolphins. They lose to the Bills, and then the Bills come right back and they lose after that. So every time we've thought, oh, this is going to be the team to beat, they've lost. And it's funny, I was actually hearing a conversation about this today. There's no real overwhelming Super Bowl favorite right now. There's like a group of like 4 or 5 teams sort of towards the top. But right now, if you kind of just were forced to pick one team, you really wouldn't feel comfortable about Kansas City or Philly or San Francisco or any of them, and like those are the ones like you would be like, and that's why at this point, there's usually one really heavy favorite. And I think Pete Schrager, who does some stuff for the NFL Network, was talking, and it was a good point. He had said, so many of these games are like on national TV, right? And we see them and everybody's watching one of these good teams get blown out. And so now like nobody really knows who to bet, because it keeps happening over and over and over again. I think this is going to be it's a really flat spot for the Ravens, right? Everything went well for them last week against your Lions. They had their single game best DVOA since of the season, and it was a top 15 game ever since the metrics have been. Like every single thing went well. They had 17 first downs on 37 plays. Lamar looked awesome. And now you come here and you got a really flat spot against a bad Arizona team with much tougher games on your schedule now, and you really feel like you are a major contender. I think the Ravens can get out of this game and win and not cover by double digits in here, right? They could be up by 16 points here and we get a garbage score to cover this thing backdoor.
I mean, it's also important to remember when you look at that score, you have to remember the 2 people that Jackson does target the most are Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. And the Lions were down to their 3rd string slot corner and their backup linebacker. So it was a good match. It was just a bad matchup for the Lions.
Wasn't it like a 4th down on the first drive too that they had to get? Yeah. I think Baltimore. And it's so funny to think about how, like, I'm not saying the Lions are going to win the game, but it's amazing if you stop them on the first drive, right? Mm-hmm. And then the whole, like, the complexion of the game is just different. You're not just immediately like, oh, we had a 4th down and chance, and you're already sort of like behind the 8 ball. So again, Baltimore looked excellent. Don't want to take anything away from them, but we've seen it all year. Now we have to pay for it in the lines based on how good they were last week. So
and Lamar Lamar's kind of like Mahomes is, doesn't cover these big numbers. He's only 40% ATS as a favorite. Oh, sorry, 42% ATS as a favorite, or 3 or more. Teams coming off winning by 30 points or more that are road favorites are 40%. So it just goes back to that buying low, selling high point that you were mentioning.
This feels like the spot of life, Eric, for you for your final play, right?
You know what? Jesus, just one of those things, dude. You have to do it. Teams 0-6 ATS playing their 7th game, 57% ATS. Look, I have CJ Stroud to win Rookie of the Year. I have the Texans over 6.5. But I really don't think Stroud should be laying over a field goal as a rookie in the NFL. I know the Panthers have been awful. They are starting to get a little bit better. Wright has covered every game off a bye. He has one push, and I know there's only been 5 times, but he's 4-0-1 off the bye with his times at Indianapolis. Sanders is going to be back. That's going to be big because the Texans do struggle against the run, so you can kind of get Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard going to good 1-2 combo, take a little bit pressure off of Young. Also, you have a young team who's going to be the talk of the town for 2 weeks, and Houston's a fun town. So I think it's a little bit of a fade spot here. I think this is the peak of the Texans market. So I'll fade them here. I'll take the Panthers here plus the 3.5.
Okay, so Eric, let us move to Sunday and Monday, because I was going to post a line, but the line actually moved. So I don't want to post a line that's a little bit old and necessarily going to put folks in a spot where they won't be able to play it. Because I was going to play Steelers at 3. I played that earlier in the week, right? But if you give that out now and people are looking for it at 2, I definitely don't like it as much at 2. So that's what I would say. If you can shop around, or if you can see that line pop up later, if it were to get to 3, I would jump on Steelers. I actually posted a comment there. Steelers line moved to 2. So I'm just going to move us now to Sunday Night Football, my friend. We have the Bears at the Chargers. Chargers are like an 8.5-point favorite in this game. Do you have any strong opinion with the secret Bagent man starting for the Bears there, coming off of a win last week?
Look, it was a nice win over the Raiders, but this is an undrafted rookie from Shepherd College in West Virginia, going all the way out to Los Angeles to make his first start on the road, with everyone talking about how good he is. The media here in Chicago saying he should be the starter, saying they should trade Justin Fields, get more draft picks, trade out of the 1 spot, get more draft picks, and just stockpile with Marvin Harris Jr. and offensive lineman. That is seriously how delusional everyone is out here in Chicago right now.
Berman was doing the secret Bagent man, on Monday Night Football. How many of his friends probably clipped that and sent it to him? Right?
Oh, yeah.
I would, sure. Like, he's got,
And I mean, just X's and O's. Like, Bears secondary is awful, especially on the outside. It's going to be a huge Quentin Johnston game. He's going to eat that up. They struggle defending with the running backs out of the passing game. Eckler is going to eat in the receiving game. You look at their offensive line. The offensive line is going to struggle defending Mack and Bosa. This is just a brutal matchup. I'm somehow, some way, I'm still kicking in circa Survivor. I'm going with the Chargers this weekend. If I lose to a 3rd-string quarterback who was undrafted, I can live with that. So
yeah,
that's Chargers here. Maybe tease them down, tease the total up. Maybe play them first half, but I'm using them in Survivor. Maybe I'll look at some Eckler props and some Quentin Johnston props.
So I could not play either side of this game, kind of because of what we were saying. Like, I want to be on the Bears in here. Like, you cannot lay the number with the Chargers. No doubt about it. Just everything we know about the Chargers and their ability to play every game close, to squander leads. They have not played very well lately. So I'm not laying this at 8.5 with the Chargers. But just like we said, man, this is going to be a standalone game, Sunday Night Football, for this kid having to go out there after playing pretty, leading the team to a win. But you start diving into those metrics, everything was so short. It was funny. It was like they schemed very well for him. It looked a little different than they schemed for Fields some of the time. Like you wonder, it was like, oh, wow, you have a different quarterback that has a different set of skills and you kind of tried to put him in a spot to succeed. Wow. Why couldn't you have done that all the time with your other guy? But yeah, I cannot play either side in this game. I think Eric's got the right idea. I think we hit some props here. I think that's where we focus. You're like in Johnson. I'm definitely on the Eckler side, especially because Eckler had a really poor game last week. So I think the matchup and the bounce back. And Eckler's a fantasy guy too, right? Like he doesn't want to hurt.
Yeah, Foreman had a big game, but it looks like Johnson's coming back on the Bears side. So maybe play the Foreman under. Cole Kmet under. I mean, he's not targeted that much. So that's kind of what I would lean for that one.
Monday Night Football, hopefully a bounce back for your Detroit Lions, Eric. They got just embarrassed the other day. They opened the game with 3 straight 3-and-outs, and by the time they got their first down, it was 28-0. By the time they got their first down, it was 28-0. It was like, it's crazy that when you see it happen like that in a football game because it so rarely happens, but it's like there are plenty of times teams go 3 possessions and don't score. It's like, oh, but Ravens got it, you didn't score. Ravens scored, you didn't score. Ravens scored, you didn't, and they scored. And it's like, it's 28-0. It was like blink of an eye type stuff. I think if you're Detroit, you just kind of put a line right through that game. You got your butts kicked. You don't want to pretend like it didn't happen, but it's hard to kind of take a lot out of that game. Maybe some particular things that you need to tweak and some matchups here and there. But like, I don't know. I still think the Lions are one of the better teams in the league, honestly. I really do. I think they're a top 5, but still probably in that 5 to 7-ish range of teams in the league. And I mean, the Raiders, they can't run the ball right now. Is this going to be O'Connell starting for them?
We have no idea. I would guess.
Or Hoyer?
I would guess.
Oh, yeah. Why not? He's got way more upside than Hoyer. Like, you sort of know what you're going to get from Hoyer. Hoyer's more of the guy who, like, if you're on a winning team and your quarterback gets hurt, you kind of don't mind Hoyer coming in for the second half of the game, right? He's that kind of guy who's sort of been around and done it. But like when you're in a situation like this now where you kind of have, I don't know, I guess they just got destroyed by the Bears. So I don't know what kind of hopes or aspirations they have, but they're still not far out of like a playoff spot. Man, I think you were kind of leaning when we talked the other day at maybe like a first half play in here.
Yeah, just kind of looking at it. They are 5-2 ATS for the season. The Lions are 5-0 as the favorite. You kind of look at Campbell, 62% ATS as his time here in Detroit against the number for the first half. As a favorite, there's been 10 times and he's 8-2. So sample size is a little insignificantly smaller, but his teams have come out prepared, have covered. You look at the other side with McDaniels, 45% ATS against the number in the first half. Road dog first half, 35%. You just kind of look at it. Can the Raiders stop the Lions run game? Lions are just going to be a lot of turn around, hand it off, turn around, hand it off, turn around, hand it off. I don't know if the Raiders are going to be able to stop that run game. They just had Deontay Foreman run for over 100 yards. What Adams does do decent against the Lions, but now he's going to have a rookie quarterback out there. Lions do have some issues in the back 4. Hutchinson needs someone rushes the quarterback. Maybe they make a trade for Chase Young to end the season. But I don't know. I would play the first half here just because there could be one of those things where they score a late touchdown, go for 2, it ends up on 6. You know what?
Is that like on the Lions message boards? Is that a thing? Chase Young?
Well, no, they definitely need a pass rusher, and they totally fumbled the draft.
Yeah, I like that. No, I like that. Have you heard that or seen that somewhere else, or is that just like you're just kind of putting two together if Washington starts continue to lose games, right?
Kind of spitballing because they didn't give him his 5th-year option.
Okay, so we heard a Woj bomb right here released from Eric, possibly as a. I know I like because I went, oh man, that would be, and then you start playing it out in your head. It fits, right? If you're Detroit, you're in a situation right now where you look around the league and it's like, damn, we could go all in right now, right? This is a winnable year. Like you feel like with the way that division is.
I feel like there's a 2-year window for him right now.
Yeah, exactly. Completely agree. And like, especially because with the way your team is built and the way the teams around you in your division are built, You
Yeah.
feel like you have a major advantage over those teams around you right now. And even the teams at the tip top of the NFC, like we've seen, you're not that terrified. Like, of course, the Eagles and the 49ers are good, but they're not unbeatable teams. And the really positive thing that your Lions have where they can compete, line play. They have a good offensive line. If they can make that defensive line even better, they'll be able to compete against anyone. If you have good offensive and defensive lines and strong line play, you can always be competitive in games. Eric, buddy, thank you so much for altering your schedule a little bit for me this week and calling audibles and everything. Really appreciate it. Folks, all of you out there, hope you have a fantastic weekend. Good luck in college football, and then good luck on NFL this week on Sunday and on Monday and Friday. 6:00 p.m. Eastern time is when we're here for DRF Sportsbook, The Winning Ticket. Make sure to give Eric a follow. Twitter is probably the best place to follow and check out all of your stuff, right? ETOF21?
Correct. Follow me on that.
And give me a follow. It's me, Gino B. Folks, we'll talk to you again real soon right here on The Winning Ticket.